Welcome back to our Motzei Shabbos Marathon, and sponsored by Aaron Swade, Lili Nishmas, his mother, on our yard site, Sarah Bas Aaron, and we really are very excited to have everybody with us on this. It's already 10 after 11. We're learning on a Motzei Shabbos 2 blot of the hardest sugis in Shas. And bravo to everybody, really bravo to everybody. We are holding, by Ton Rabbanon, 2 lines from the bottom of Ayin Beis Amid Beis, 2 lines from the bottom of Ayin Beis Amid Beis. Ton Rabbanon, HaMelech Chavila Mimakam Lamakam. If, let's say, I was carrying a Staunton chess set, and I was taking it from Borough Park, where it could be sold for $150, and I was bringing it up to the Catskills, where I could get $360 for it. So Mitzvah Chaveira, Gedalia meets me, V'amalei Tnoli, give it to me, V'ani alalach, and I'll pay you, advance it to me, and I'll pay you later, Kederach Shemalan Lach Ba'isamakim. I'll pay you the $360 Catskill price, but not now. I'll pay it to you later. I'll give it to you in 2 months. So the idea is that since over here it's $150, why am I getting $360? Because I got nothing. Because I'm waiting, right? I'm waiting to get paid later on. So says the Gemara, Bereshus Meicher. Now Gedalia's plan is he's going to bring it to the Catskills. He's going to sell it in the Catskills for $360, and then he's going to have money to eat in the pizza shops and the shawarma shops, and he'll pay me later. And that's the plan. Okay? So, B'shus Meicher, if I say, Gedalia, I'll accept achrayus for the chess set until you get to the Catskills, so that means that it's in my possession until he gets to the Catskills. And then he's buying it where it's already worth $360. So then it's mutter. So then that's its value. But it's just like kayach. But if he takes it from me right away, and then he's paying me the higher price of $360 because I have to wait for the money, so then that's also because that's agarnoter. Now let's get the next case. 2 lines from the top of Ein Gimel Amid Aleph. Hamoylech Peiris Mimakam L'Makam. I'm taking fruit from one place to another. I'm transporting Macintosh apples from one place to another. Mitzvah Chaveira, Gedalia finds me, V'amalei, and he tells me, namely, give it to me here where the price is low, and I'll replace it with fruit from the other place. Now, it could be that, now this sounds like sabasa, because it could be by the time he gives me the fruit, right? I gave him a pound of Macintosh apples. When he gives me back the pound of Macintosh apples, it might be worth more. So I'm getting more because I'm waiting. So that's a straightforward contract of sabasa, which is not allowed. So im yesh lo peiris b'yisamakam, if he has fruit in the other place, so therefore it could be considered Gedalia's now already, so then it's not a problem. Mutter. V'im lav also. Now, Vachamorin. Now this is an interesting case. Vachamorin. These are donkey peddlers. Malim, let's say that Michal Avram is peddling chess sets, magnetic chess sets, the ones that open up, magnetic. And what he does is he's in Borough Park, where the magnetic chess sets sell for $10 a chess set. He's going to Chinatown, where those chess sets go for $1 a chess set. Yeah. So what does he do? He tells people, if you buy it, I'll give you the Chinatown price. If you buy it, I'll give you the Chinatown price when I get them. Advance me the money. Right? So somebody buys 100 sets. So over here, 100 sets would be $1,000. So he buys 100 sets for $100. He gives them an order, and he gives them the cheaper rate for advancing him the money. So it sure sounds like because Gedalia is ready to wait for delivery, right, he's getting the cheaper rate. That's Agar Nater. He's getting the cheaper rate because he's ready for delivery. He's waiting for delivery. So let's see it inside. Achamorim are magnetic checks, peddler by donkey, Michal Avram. Malim b'makayim hayoker, he could give where it sells for $10 a set. Kimikayim azul, he could give the cheaper rate of $1 a set, because Gedalia is advancing him the money, and he doesn't have to be concerned. So the Gemara says, why not? Gedalia is getting the cheaper rate because he's advancing the money and he's waiting for delivery. So says the Gemara, my timer. So the Gemara says an interesting thing. Because here, Michal Avram is not advancing him this. Is not giving him the cheaper rate because he has to wait for the money. He's giving him the cheaper rate because when he gets orders, the suppliers will deal with him. The suppliers don't deal with everybody. But when they see he has advanced orders, they'll deal with him. My time, they give him the rate because he has advanced sales. Because the suppliers give him a discount. The Mosley Gabai, they give him a discount. My Beinai, what's the difference? So the Gemara says, the difference is if Michal Avram is new. If he's new, they won't give him a discount. But they will give him business because he has all these advanced purchases. Now the Gemara tells us, Besura Azlu Arba Arba. In Surah, honeydews were going 4 for a zuz. Bekafre, in Kafre, Oslin, Shita. They were going 6 for a zuz. So Yosef Rav Zuzek, Rav gave an advance, even though over here in Surah they were selling for a 4. So Rav gave an advance of a zuz, and he agreed to get payment for 5. The Kabbalah unsa de urcha. Now, wait a second. It would seem to be that he's getting more because he's waiting for delivery and he advanced the money. So how could he, if over here the rate is 4, because he's waiting, he's getting 5, isn't that a problem of Agar Nater? But says the Gemara, what Rav did to offset this was that he accepted responsibility from anything that happened from Kafri to Surah. He accepted responsibility. And therefore, since he accepted responsibility, that means that he's buying it in Kafri. If he's buying it in Kafri, so therefore he should get the rate of Kafri. So the Gemara says, if that's the case, then why did he take 6? Why didn't he take 5? It says, he should take 6. Adam Chashiv Shani, he wanted to be above suspicion. Now, Boimine Rav Asim Rav Yochanan, Mao Lasois Begrutois came. Can we do this with scrap metal? Now, the scrap metal Grutois over here, Grutois are scrap metal, so it could be scrap gold or other types of scrap. It could be scrap copper. So, the shaila over here is that we said that you're allowed to give advance payment when there's a fixed price. Or, well, that's the way I learned it the first time, but that's, one second. One second. Yeah, it's going back on the case right before, where we said by the chesets, where Michal Avram took advance purchases and promised a cheaper price because he wanted the dealers, the suppliers, to give him orders, or because they would give him a reduction. That's where there were steady dealers in chesets. Is that true also with scrap metal? So the Gemara will say, well, they didn't say this by linen, and it's not true by scrap metal either. Amalei Bikash Rabbi Shmuel Rabbi Yossi Lasses came with clay pishtin with linen. V'loy Hadich Rabbi Ikid Amri Bikash Rabbi Lasses begutois came by scrap metal. V'loy Yanich Rabbi Shmuel Rabbi Yossi, and Rabbi Shmuel Rabbi Yossi didn't let them. It's not the same. Pardesa. Now this is a simple case. I have an orchard. Yeshua Shmuel wants to give me payment for the yield of the orchard later. Now, he wants to make up to get a certain amount of barrels of wine later for the payment that he gave me now. The problem is, even if there's a fixed rate now, the problem is that later, usually, let's say it's a delivery of 10 barrels of wine, at least 1 or 2 are going to go sour. If I give him 10 barrels of wine and no sour barrel, that means that because Yeshua Shmuel waited, I'm giving him that extra guarantee. So Rav Aser Ushmuel Shari. Rav Aser came under the Kamei Shavya Tvei because I'm guaranteeing him that he's not going to get any sour wine. Mischaze ki aganotole. It looks like I'm. It looks like I'm. Yeshua Shmuel is getting extra because he's waiting for his money. Shmuel Shari. Shmuel permits it because Kavan the Havabei Tiyua, since he's taking a risk, and the risk is that maybe my vineyard will be damaged, and then he's not going to get anything. Therefore, because of that risk, I could also guarantee him that I'm not going to give him any sour wine. That's not considered like waiting for a profit. Rav Shimon bar Chia, Rav agrees, even though Rav says that it's usher, but Rav agrees b'torei, with wine that's pressed with oxen, and there the oxen could crush the grapes and ruin them, so therefore there's an element of risk, so therefore I could then guarantee him not to have sour wine, because there the nafish peseidayo, there's a good chance that it's going to get ruined. As I told you, the challenge of these dafin is every few lines is a new case and a new circumstance. So really, it's really bravo to all of you. Now, Marshall, what year anniversary is it?
42.
42, bum. B'dibarta bum. 42.
Thanks a lot.
42, well, bum is a very big thing. Mem is mei masai and beis is bereshis. So that's Torah Shabbat Peh and Torah Shabbat.
My father used to call me a bum too.
You're learning tonight on your anniversary should bode good for you for the whole year. Oh yeah. You should have Zisa Shalom Bayis the whole year.
Amen.
Now, here's an interesting situation. Marshall's a sharecropper. And if he doesn't have seed, he's going to borrow from me seed and pay me later on from the crop. Problem is that sabasa. Maybe the seed later will be worth more. So Amalu Shmuel lahano de shafshei shivshei. Shmuel said to those who give seeds to the sharecroppers, hafucha ba'ara, make sure to take the hoe and move it around in the ground so that you should acquire the seeds. So when he gives you back the seeds, it was already yours if it goes up in value. Because if not, havilu kalva, then you're lending seeds and you're getting back seeds that might be worth more, and then that's awesome. Amalu Ravalano the mantre bage. This is an interesting case. Rava told Marshall for extra money in between fixing cars would guard fields. Now, the problem is that he would guard fields, he would work until Nisan, but not take payment until Iyar. And because he took payment later, so they gave him an extra tip. So that extra tip would be then ribbis for waiting till Iyar. So Rava recommended Marshall make sure to do a little work in the field until Iyar. So then you're not mechuyev to be paid until Iyar because schiras is paid at the end. And then if they give you a tip, they're just giving you more money. They're not giving you money for waiting for the money. Amalu Rav no demintere bagik, to those that watch fields. Poku afuchu beidari. Make sure, even though you stop guarding in Nisan, make sure to turn around the crops a little bit in the threshing floor. Do a little work. Kiechi, that way you'll be working all the way to Iyar. Kiechi deloy tishtam schiris didu ada ishata. So then they owe you money then only at the end by Iyar. The schiris ain't a mishtal emisal b'seif. Rental is only paid. You're hired. You're paid only at the end. Then they're paying you extra. That's all. They're not giving you a tip because you waited from Nisan to Iyar, but they're giving you extra for doing that little work that you did until Iyar.
That's not what he was hired for.
What?
That's not what they were hired for.
Yeah, but still, it's considered like they're nicha that he does it. So therefore, the tip is not viewed as a loan, but as further payment for doing the extra job until Iyar. They don't want to have ribbis problems either. Amru le Rabbanan le Rava. The Rabbanan said to Rava, Ka'achel ma ribbis. The master is consuming ribbis. You know what happens over here? You waited to get paid. Everybody pays their sharecroppers on Nisan, and they pay 4 kur. You pay an Iyar, and you pay 6 kur. So because they waited an extra month, you're giving them extra. So that's agar nata. So Amalei Rabbanan Rava, Rabbanan said to Rava, Ka'achel ma ribbis. The master is eating ribbis. The kuli alma shakle arba. Everybody pays their sharecropper in Nisan 4 kur. Umasalke larisa b'Nisan, and they remove their sharecroppers in Nisan. Mar notulu ariyah. You don't pay them till a month later, and because they waited an extra month, v'shakal shita, and they take right, not pay. The kuli alma shakli arba. Everyone removes their sharecroppers in Nisan, and they take from their sharecropper 4 kur. Umasalke larisa b'Nisan. Mar not to luad Iyar. You Rava wait to collect until Iyar, b'shakal shita. But because you waited for your money, you're taking extra. You're taking 6 kur. So Rava says just the opposite. I'm doing the sharecroppers a big favor. You evict them in Nisan, so they have to take their crops before they ripen. So they suffer a loss. I let them stay till Iyar, so of course I take more, because I let them stay to Iyar. But this way they get the benefit, because they get all their product ripens properly. Amalu atan ko'avdisin shaloi kedid. Adrabi, you're doing improperly. He's supposed to have the field until his crops mature. If you remove them in Nisan, they have to cut off their crops before they fully ripen. That you're causing them a big loss. I let their crops fully ripen, and I let them stay until Iyar. So of course I'm entitled to more. I caused them that they could cut their crops fully ripen, then of course I could collect more. I could collect 6 kur. Now we turned another page. Wow. Thank you, Hashem.
Whose crops were they waiting to ripen? If you're a sharecropper, aren't you working for the?
No, but sharecropper gets a share.
A share, but most of it is the boss's.
But it's his crops that he gets, whatever, it's 33%, he's waiting for it to ripen. By sending them out early, they're taking crops that are not ripe.
So is the boss getting that inferior?
The boss doesn't have to cut his stuff. He told him, it's okay, your job is over, cut it off and leave. Now, the next case is a very interesting case. Ramari Barachel gave a loan. No, excuse me. Yeah. Ramari Barachel gave a loan to Tony. Tony gave him his house or his apartment as a mashkin. And Ramari Baruch Hu rented out the apartment. In the meantime, Tony sold that apartment to Rava. So now let's follow the case inside. Rav Mari Baruch Hu gave a loan to Tony. Mashkin le'ahu nachri beisa. So Tony gave Rav Mari Baruch Hu an apartment as collateral. Hodar zavna leRava. Then Tony sold that apartment to Rava. So the first year, Rav Mari Baruch Hu kept the rent of the apartment for himself. Not a trace a yarkei shata. Rav Mari Baruch Hu waited a year. He kept the rent, and then shokal agabesa. Then the next month of rent of the second year, he took and amtele Rava and brought it to Rava, who's now the owner of the house. And Rav Mari Baruch Hu explained to Rava what he did. Amalei, haidoloi amtele mar agabesa ado idna. That which I didn't give you the rent until now, the stam mashkanta shata, because the first year of collateral, the law is that you're not allowed to evict the person. Even if Tony would have paid him, he wouldn't be able to evict him. So the stam mashkanta shata, iboy nachri l'salke, if he would have wanted to evict me, lo avi matzi misalekli. So therefore, the first year, he had no right to sell it from underneath me. Hashta, now, after the first year, lishker mar agabesa. Let the master take the rent from the second year. So first of all, Rabbi tells Rav Mari Baruch Hu, if I would have known you had an interest in this apartment, I wouldn't have never bought it. Because if you remember, we learned earlier that the one who has collateral has a din of bar metzia, has a din to get first right of purchase. So therefore, if I would have known that this was collateral to the master, I wouldn't have even bought it, because you have first dibs on it. But now I will do with you like their law. The law by them is until Tony pays, he can't take the collateral away. And therefore, as long as Tony doesn't honor the loan by paying it up, they don't take the rent. Ananami, I also I won't take the rent from you until Tony pays off the debt. Amalei Rava Mibranish l'Ravashi. Rava Mibranish said to Ravashi, Chazi ma Rabbanon de ka'ochle Rabise. Look how Rabbanon, they're eating ribbis. The Yove Zuze Achamra b'Tishrei. They give money for wine in Tishrei. Umavchirele la b'Tevis. And then they give money for wine in Tishrei, and they take delivery in Teves, where it could very well be that the wine is worth more in Teves, and they take delivery, the amount. Let's say they buy 10 barrels in Tishrei, and they take delivery of 10 barrels in Teves. So, says Gemara, the question is, what's the problem? As long as the one that they bought it from already has wine, or there's a fixed rate, it should be allowed. So the Mefarshim explained the kasha was like we explained before, that they paid for 10 barrels, and the supplier guaranteed them 10 barrels of wine with no sour barrels. So that means that because they waited for their delivery, they were getting that guarantee. So the answer is as follows. Amalei inu nami achamra koyave. The yeshiva people paid for 10 barrels of wine. Achala loy koyave. They didn't pay for vinegar. And therefore, if stuff becomes vinegar later on in Tavis, it had to already be going bad in Tishrei. And therefore, that barrel they didn't buy. They bought a barrel which in Tishrei didn't have any potential to become vinegar. Meikar de chamra chamra, what was going to be wine was wine from the beginning. The chala chala. And hahi shatu the kamafkre. They chose it in Tishrei. So it's not pshat that because they're waiting for delivery, he doesn't give them the sour barrels. They bought 10 barrels of wine now. They didn't buy anything that has a potential bacteria to go sour. And therefore he can't give them barrels of the sour, because barrels that became sour already had the potential to be sour in Tishrei. Ravina have a Yov Zuze Lebnei Akra de Shanvasa. This is an interesting case. Ravina would advance money to the people of Akra de Shanvasa, and for waiting, they gave him a cup extra as a tip. V'shavkalei tfei kafisa. And when he picked up delivery later, they gave him an extra cup as a tip. Also, the Kamid Rav Ashi came before Rav Ashi. Amalei mishari. The extra cup doesn't look like ribbis. Amalei, now that's just achuleu de machle gabach. It wasn't prearranged, and the extra cup is just a gratuity. It's not considered ribbis. So he said, but I have a different problem with dealing with these people. He was troubled by something else. These people that made the wine in the vineyard, it wasn't their vineyard. It belonged to poor people, but because they couldn't pay the taxes, they had to vacate the land. They were afraid. And therefore these people came in and took it over. So am I buying from illegal owners? Amalei ha'ara lavdidhu he. It's not their land. Amalei ara letaska mishabda. The land is meshubit to the tax. And the dina de malchusa is whoever pays the tax gets the land. O malka amar mandi yov taska leichalara. So they have right to be in the land. The Gemara tells us, Taka, Amalei Rapapa L'Rava, Chazi Mar Hani Rabbanan, the Yov Zuze Akargadin Shek, there was a skull tax. Now, people that don't pay the skull tax could be confiscated by the crown. So Amalei Rapapa L'Rava, Rapapa says to Rava, Chazi Mar Hani Rabbanan, the Yov Zuze Akargadin Shek, that pay people's skull tax and then work them. Or Meshabdei Butvei and then work them. Amalei, so Rava said, it's a good thing I didn't die. Amalei hashte ichu shchiva, if I would have died, lo imrei l'chu al milsa, I wouldn't have explained this to you. Hachi amar Rav Sheshes, markayu dahani, the bondage, the ownership of these subjects, Tafza de Malkamana. The ownership of these people rest in the possession of the king. The king has a right to enslave the people if they don't pay the skull tax. Or Malka says if somebody pays the skull tax on behalf of people, he has the right to work them. Mandalo Yov Karka, Lishtabed Mandi Yov Karka. Somebody who doesn't pay the skull tax could make work for him if he pays the skull tax for them. Rav Sa'iram This is a very interesting case. Rav Sa'orim Akva de Rava. Rav Sa'orim, the brother of Rava. I don't think we have him mentioned very often. You remember him being mentioned? I don't think he's mentioned very often. Rav Sa'orim Akva de Rava. Rava, to be carried to giving the shir, to get through the crowds, he would be carried on a sedan chair, on a litter. And it was carried by poles, by 4 very strong people. It was hard work. So Rav Sa'orim Akva de Rava have a tokif inish delay male. He would force people who had a bad reputation, and force them to carry the sedan chair of Rava. It's very hard work. Amalei Rava, shaperka of this, that's proper what you're doing. The Tanya, Ra'isa she'ena noy kishura, if you see people behaving improperly, Minayin sha'ata rashay lishtabed bay, how do you know that you're allowed to enslave the person? Now it's interesting, the pasuk says that a Canaanite slave, lo oilam bahem tavoid, you should always work. But with your brothers, a man with his brothers should not work them with crushing labor. But you could also read the pasuk that a Evet Kanani la'olam bahem tavaydu uva'achechem, and also your brothers too. So Rava says we read it that way for a person who's not behaving properly. Menayin she'ata reisa she'ena noy kishura, menayin she'ata rashi l'shtabed. Boy, how do you know that you're allowed to enslave him? Because we read it, Tamalayim la'olam bahem tavaydu uva'achechem. You're allowed to enslave them and your brothers. Yachal afilu noy kishura. I might think you could enslave even somebody that behaves properly. Then we read it, Talmud, you're not allowed to enslave. Now I think that there's more here than meets the eye. You see, there was a real interesting maisa what happened. There was a man who became very assimilated. And, for his business purposes, it wasn't good for anybody to know that he was a Yid. If they knew that he was a Yid, he wouldn't get contracts. But he was very worried that one day something would happen to him. And they wouldn't know he was a Yid, and they'd bury him in a Goyish cemetery. That he couldn't tolerate. So he went to the Ger Rebbe and he asked the Ger Rebbe what to do. So the Ger Rebbe told him that he should wear a talis cotton. Nobody will know about it, but if something should happen, if she drowned or something, he would be found that he was wearing a talis cotton. So that was very sensible to him. So under his clothing, without anybody seeing it, he started wearing a talis cotton. All of a sudden, he started having an urge to eat kosher. And then he couldn't bring himself not to keep Shabbos. The Ger Rebbe's plan worked. He felt if the Yid would wear tzitzis, the schus of the tzitzis would bring him back. And I think that that's also over here. Why did Rav Sa'orim have this man work to carry Rava? The schus of carrying the Gadol Hador to share, that schus should turn him around. That's why he had him do it. That's not just giving him menial labor. He could have had him dig pits. He wanted him to have this big schus. Rabbi say, I myself am astounded we did it. This was 1 second. This was very hard learning, and we're going to do the Mishnah Yomis now. I know it's very late, so not time for curiosity. What time is tomorrow's shir is 8:35? Yeah, it's 8:35 tomorrow. 8:35 is shared tomorrow and throughout the week.
Long too?
Yeah, I mean it's between 8:35 and 8:40. If I can sneak in counting Svira, if I prolong the Mishnah Yaimis a little bit, so then I try to sneak in the Svira.